Hey everybody, today I'm going to share with you the Scotty 141 transducer mount. So as we walk into my garage here, you're going to see I've got the Lifetime Teton angler kayak, but never mind that. Let's just focus on the transducer mount, which is right here. You can see it's the rail system right here. The reason why I got something with this rail system so I can slide it back and forth or put it on the other side is simply because I don't want anything permanently screwed into the kayak here, or even on the other side. Now this video is not about the type of locator you have, the fish finder. This is the Garmin Striker 4. You can use this with anything, and that's the beautiful thing about the Scotty 141 transducer mount. It doesn't matter what kind of transducer you have, it's going to work for pretty much any locator or transducer setup you decide to go with. A really cool thing about this transducer mount right here is that at some point I'm going to put my locator screen right on top of here. It keeps it all in one spot, all of the cords are in one area, and then those can slip underneath my seat to this little battery back here in my kayak crate. Most transducer cords come with 10-15 feet of wire. It's not really necessary in a kayak. What I do is I just tie mine up right now with this gear tie, and I have this mounted on this board, but that's because I also use this in my John boat. I put this right on the bench next to me when I'm fishing. When you order the transducer mount, you're going to find that it comes in this box. Here's the number one thing you really need to be careful of. You need to purchase the Scotty 141 transducer mount, not the Scotty 140 transducer mount. Do not get that one if you want a rail system. If you purchase the Scotty 140, what you're going to get with that is a Scotty mount that has to be screwed into the kayak here, or even into the center. If you get the 140 Scotty transducer mount, it's not going to work with this rail system. You need something that's going to work in the kayak track either on this side or that side over there, so you can adjust it and you can take it off when you need to. If you get the 140 Scotty transducer mount, you're going to have to screw it into the edge of your kayak somewhere, either here or up here, and that's going to limit your options. There may be a time you want to put your transducer mount on the other side. For example, if I find that this transducer mount right here gets in the way of my anchor trolley, which it very well could, I may have to put it on the other side of the kayak, and because this moves so easily, I can easily do that. So if you want to move this transducer mount up and down the rail, or even off the rail, all you need to do is loosen this part right down here. Not the top part, but there's a little part in here that actually loosens this way, and now what you can do is you can slide it forward if you want, or back toward you, depending where you want it to be when you're actually fishing and sitting in the chair up there. Of course, if you want to completely remove it from this rail, you just do so by moving it forward. At least on this kayak, that's how it works. Alright, so now I'm in the kayak just like I would be if I was fishing. One of the keys to remember is that you want this to be something you can reach easily. Once I have my fish finder screen up here, that needs to be reached. And now I'm stretching out my right hand basically as far as it can go, just on the edge of the tracks without leaning too far forward, and I can reach this area. The key is to be able to reach this knob right here, so you can loosen it just like this, bring up your transducer to get it out of the water. That way it prevents drag. If you have to be somewhere that's 200-300 yards away on the water, you're canoeing back to the launch point, you want to make sure this is out of the water so you're not getting a lot of drag on your kayak. This will slow you down and make you work harder than you have to. Once it's back in the location you want it to, all you have to do then is tighten it, and you should be good to go. Now a lot of people keep it straight up and down. You can do whatever you want, but as long as it's out of the water when you're traveling long distances, this is probably the best thing I would recommend you do. It's also good, like I said, to keep it back on the tracks toward you so you can actually reach this and you can make sure that it's accessible while you're fishing in your kayak. To reverse the process, obviously you loosen this. Keep in mind I'm doing this with one hand rather than two. Get it to the position where you want and then tighten it again. These cords right here don't seem to be too much of a problem. What I recommend you do with these cords is fasten it to the transducer mount arm right here using these zip ties. Once you find a location that works for you as far as how much slack you want in the cord. The reason why you want slack in this cord is because you may want to adjust this a little bit as far as how much you want the transducer to go in the water. This is as high up as it goes right here, but if you want to loosen this, you certainly can, and I recommend you experiment with that depending on how deep you want this in the water. You can drop it all the way down, tighten up these screws right here, and you're basically good to go. Now my transducer is facing this way. I'm going to experiment with that. I've seen some people have their transducer facing the front. This is a large transducer, probably better for a boat, but it works in a kayak. If you want to put yours toward the back. You can experiment with what works better for you. And when you're in the water and you're paddling, or even if it's on a windy day, this is going to catch the water quite a bit. So what I like to do, just because of that, so I don't put too much stress on this plastic arm, is I actually loosen these up, bring the transducer up as high as it goes, fasten these down pretty tight. Make sure everything's cranked real nice and tight, and that way it stays on there and you're not catching as much water and it's not putting as much pressure on this as it really needs to. What I love about Scotty is its versatility and the fact that it's so simple to use. I set up this entire thing with 0 tools. I just use my fingers to fasten everything together because that's the way it's set up. You don't need wrenches and screwdrivers or anything. Here's the thing that Scotty sends with this transducer mount. Scotty sends its own track system right here, this rail mount, that basically works the same way as your kayak rails that you probably already have on your kayak. Now, if you don't have kayak rails or they're in a bad position, I would encourage you to put this on your kayak because you can use this for other things other than the actual Scotty transducer mount. So they send it to you so that you can place it here, maybe back over here, so it's a little closer. But if you have these rails and you're happy with them on your kayak, there's no reason to screw this in there, put on top of your kayak. You're just screwing more holes in here. It's not really necessary. That's the only thing you would really need tools for is if you use the Scotty rail that came with it. Screws are included. These I'm just going to keep somewhere else. I might need them later, but for now I really don't. What's really cool about Scotty is that they sent instructions that probably a 7 or 8 year old could figure out. These are easier than most Lego instructions. All the pictures line up. Everything is here. Like I said, you don't need tools. I'm not very good at putting things together necessarily, and I think I put this entire thing together in less than 5 minutes. One of the reasons I don't want anything permanently screwed into the kayak has nothing to do with water getting in, because you can actually fix that with silicone and everything. It's actually because I don't want anything permanent, because I might change my mind of where I want that thing to be located. Of course, you can put rod holders on there. You can put fish finder, transducer mounts like you've seen right there, a fish finder itself, the screen, cup holders, GoPro mounts for camera. But ultimately, if you do that, you have to be really confident that that's where you want it and that's where it's always going to stay. Not to mention, if you want to sell your kayak one day, the person who's purchasing it might not appreciate the fact that there's a permanent structure that is screwed into the kayak, and they might not like it there, and that might actually hurt your resale. In the future, I plan on doing an entire kayak setup, how I've modified it since I purchased this kayak. But if you haven't seen how I set this kayak up to begin with about a year ago, my basic setup for that, click this video right here. It's going to help you become a better kayak angler. It's going to show you how simple is usually better when it comes to fishing on the water. Thanks for stopping by.